I have never had more hype for a sports series than I have for Blue Lock. Honestly, it took like 2-3 times for me to get into Blue Lock, because when the first episode came out, it was hyped up, but I figured, okay, it is actually pretty cool, I'll come back to it later. Then the World Cup starts, and then not only does Japan win two games in a row, but then you see on social media, especially in the US alone, Blue Lock is trending, and I see so many things on Twitter, TikTok, and even YouTube Shorts about Blue Lock. You know, the meme, the Blue Lock is real. It was on my timeline for days. And then eventually I ended up seeing a video made by Broken Ronin about Blue Lock. I think it was I believe the video was called "This Manga Teaches You How to Be a Winner," and I ended up deciding, you know what, I'm gonna give this series a try. There's so much hype around it, and this video also convinced me as well. And I haven't looked back. Blue Lock, I'm very surprised that I liked it as much as I did. This series has so many things going for it, but the main things are hype and anticipation. These two things are what make any series, especially like an action series, so worth watching, even in like certain slower parts, because I did not expect Blue Lock to be this hype in any capacity. Sports anime can get incredibly hype, don't get me wrong, especially when you get the build up to these moments, but these moments are primarily due to like teamwork and stuff like that. Blue Lock is not really about that. It's about these characters, yeah, there's teamwork and stuff like that, but their aim is to literally just surpass everybody, to be the best striker there is, and it's very egotistical to an extent. You have to just embrace your own ego to be a bit selfish on the field. If you have the chance to take a goal, you take it. Or, you know, try and set things up to actually score a goal. Now, in all honesty, I'm not really that big of a soccer fan. I know it's shocking, a Greek that doesn't like soccer. Honestly, when I admitted that, I honestly think a piece of my soul just died a little bit. And I think I disappointed my entire family when I mentioned that. But all in all, this series is honestly really good. I'm not really a sports guy in general, but it was just something about sports anime that I liked it. And the main thing is just getting invested in the characters and just seeing these writers, these authors, and even the animators show their love for sport. Hell, even explain things, play styles, how certain things go into a sport. Blue Lock, there is that, but there's also like breaking things down to a somewhat mathematical formula. And I know a lot of you hear this and are like, man, they're making it into a super complex battle anime, aren't they? I think to an extent you're not wrong, but it's not complex. Actually fairly simple, because all it really comes down to is these characters coming up with new ways to try and score a goal, utilizing what they're good at. The main character is basically just good situational awareness. He can tell what's going on with the field, and sometimes he can predict where a goal can end up being if he pays attention to where the ball's going, who has the ball, and just a general formation of how things are going on the field in his plain view of sight. And by doing that, he can find a way to intercept and steal a ball, and set things up to either score himself a goal or set things up for other people to get a goal. Different characters have different talents. Bachira, my favorite character, I think everyone's favorite character, is just really good at dribbling the ball, and honestly when the animators animate that, it's actually really cool to see, and it's honestly relatively fluid. But you get the point. Everyone's got their own things to do, their own specialties, whether it be just hitting a very good shot to score a goal from like a halfway point of the field or something, or by any direction, running really fast, being really good at passing. It's a whole thing. Everyone's different, and everyone's got their own talents to an extent. And that's something that Blue Lock utilizes. Characters end up utilizing their own specialties to their advantage to try and not only surpass the people they're playing against, but the people they're playing with. Literally, especially towards the second half of the season, we end up getting like kind of cringy and weird dialogue that you wouldn't expect an actual human being to just say with an outright serious face. Like, I've seen some of this in the manga so far. I'm like 2.5 volumes in, and you're like, it's weird when you read it, but when you hear someone say it out loud, you're like, did he really just say something like that? And why is he saying it so seriously when he does that? Like, literally, the main character basically just talks about devouring people. Literally in the sense of just seeing what they're doing and just taking it for himself to utilize it in a way to give him a better opportunity to score a goal. Or characters constantly talking about killing each other. Literally, it's exaggerated. Blue Lock is very over-exaggerated in terms of its character expressions with how serious they look, how they take things, as well as just the idea of giving characters just like a sinister or menacing aura. But even though it's not actually happening in the actual game, the series is still relatively realistic. There are fantastical elements in terms of just how they're portrayed in illustration. I mean, the only real like sci-fi thing is that they have an actual like AI solid hologram goalie. I still need an explanation for why that's a thing, because it's supposed to be like modern day. That's honestly the funny thing. But you don't really care too much about that. This whole series is just, like I said, hype incarnate. Because every single time the characters are in a game, they're up against an opponent that ends up having the advantage. Whether it be they're good at controlling the ball, good at scoring goals, or just, you know, maneuvering through someone's defensive line, the characters have to constantly try and figure out a way to get around it. Whether it be someone like Isagi just keeping an eye out on the field and trying to find the perfect opportunity to steal a ball, or someone like Bachira dribbling the ball, trying to steal the ball and dribble it through multiple people in order to pass it or score a goal eventually himself. And the way Blue Lock utilized this is, like I said, through the exaggerated character expressions and illustrations, with how serious they look, and with how it, like I said, builds up the anticipation for an eventual goal. All the goals in Blue Lock are just big momentous occasions, with how it's portrayed, with how it's set up. To illustrate my point, I am just going to show you guys an image from the second half of the first season in episode 21. So skip ahead if you don't want to be spoiled. But the whole context is the character of Baro is on Isagi's team, and they're playing off against someone named Rin in his team, who Isagi lost to at the beginning of this whole arc in order to get his teammate Bachira back. And they have the advantage. Isagi's on the back ropes, they're behind like 2 goals, but they end up maneuvering around to try and score a few. But Baro is someone who is honestly very selfish in terms of having the ball. He wants to score all the points. He does open up a bit and becomes a bit more willing to pass if the need is arisen, but it's all mainly about scoring the goal. And he doesn't get the ball at all for a good chunk of the game, until eventually he just bides his time. We get so many different instances of shots of him just getting angry that he's not getting the ball, but also seeing his frustration building up to an extent, but he's being calm about it, even with images of a lion behind him, until eventually this happens. Baro takes the ball, something that Rin did not expect to happen. He stole the ball and then scores a goal from it. The anticipation in the build-up with Baro about to take the ball, and then finally the payoff and hype when he eventually takes it and scores a goal that no one expected, and even throws the opponent in for a loop, because Baro was not really like being a team player. He's more of like a selfish type of player. He will consistently he'll even steal the ball from his own teammates if the opportunity arises, and that's why he kind of used the whole imagery of a lion getting ready to pounce on its prey. And just how it's illustrated, I haven't read that part in the manga yet. I'm still trying to read through Blue Lock and get up to date on it. But the anime did a really good job with this, and man, was the hype worth it. And it just keeps building. That's how it is in every match of Blue Lock. You get things like characters ending up just being on the ropes, and then eventually they figure out a way to actually score a goal, or they take advantage of a particular situation, with this anticipation of something about to happen just paying off. It's anticipation and hype with immense payoff, whether it be someone actually getting the goal or someone actually managing to just luckily be in the right place at the right time and stop the goal. There is just so much that the series has to go for it, and I'm honestly loving every instance of it. And honestly, all of that wouldn't be as impactful as it is if you didn't end up liking any other characters. You'll like Isagi because he's the main character. You'll love Bachira. You'll really like Baro. You'll like a lot of the characters in this series, and that's what makes all the hype and anticipation so worth it in the end, because the build-up is just so satisfying when things eventually happen. And Blue Lock itself is unexpected. It does a lot of unexpected things. Towards the end of the first season, something happens that I'm like, I did not expect that the way things were going. It literally threw a curveball at you in many interesting moments, especially towards the end of the season. By the time this video comes out, it's probably going to be done because there's like one episode left in the season. I just realized I went through this entire video and not saying what exactly the Blue Lock is. So, just to cap off the video, the Blue Lock is literally just a program made by Jinpachi Ego for the sole purpose of creating the ultimate striker so that Japan can actually win the World Cup. Honestly, I did not expect to like the series, as I stated at the beginning of the video, but the whole process is literally just going through different types of training, playing games to try and find the most talented striker in the bunch, giving them a bunch of motivations, and even some pretty relatively big caveats and consequences if they fail out of the Blue Lock program. Blue Lock is basically just the Squid Game type scenario, just you actually have a decent place to live and you have a chance of winning and you don't actually die at the end. Instead, when you fail out, you're basically blacklisted from ever playing soccer on the national level. Whether you play in local like actual teams when you end up graduating, or just on the actual national team. You won't be able to play in the World Cup if you're someone that really loves soccer and your dream is to play in the World Cup representing your home. If you lose out of this program, you're basically blacklisted out of the entire thing altogether, which puts a lot of stakes for the characters because they all really love soccer. They all love this hobby of theirs. It's not really much of a hobby. It's kind of like a way of life, something that's a part of them. So they don't want that dream to end. That's part of the consequences and why a lot of them go and do whatever it takes to make their dreams come true. Also, Jinpachi Ego is basically just Slender Man with a bowl cut. Sounds ridiculous on paper, but when you say it more times, it's actually something that you would actually like to see. Does anybody remember Slender Man? Am I that old at this point to reference something from like the mid-2010s? Anyway, that's basically what the Blue Lock program is. I probably should have opened that up at the beginning of the video, but with this whole setup for what this series is about, we follow Isagi as he tries to become the best striker. We meet all these different characters, and the rest is history. I basically went over this in the entirety of the video up until this point. Hype, anticipation, payoff. That is everything in Blue Lock to a T, and that's what helps make it enjoyable. Not to mention, like I said, all the awesome illustrations and how the animators put things together. Now, the only caveat of, well, the anime is because there are a lot of moments with CG characters, the characters not being CG a lot of the times, like overview shots and stuff like that for a lot of the running shots, probably because they didn't have enough time to just fully animate all that in 2D. But it is what it is. It's not super jarring. It doesn't take me out of it all the time, but some moments just feels like too robotic. It just doesn't sit right. But everything else kind of makes up for it with all the hype moments, all the cool characters. It makes up for the kind of meh to not that great CG that's implemented at times. The thing I could see people not liking Blue Lock for is just all the talking. I mean, look, it happens with a lot of sports anime, someone explaining certain aspects of how someone does a play. But it happens a lot with Blue Lock, with characters having a lot of inner monologues, trying to figure out what they're going to do, how are they going to score a goal, how am I going to get this reaction, how am I going to come up with utilizing my specialty to its fullest, how am I going to evolve further as a player. You go through all this, but it honestly gives you the sense of like more of a psychological series, because with all of the build-up and all the imagery of like Isagi trying to disperse himself as puzzle pieces and trying to put them all back together to create a new vision of himself and how to play. It actually ends up being very interesting with how it's portrayed in the manga from what I've seen so far, and the anime does a really good job with it also. Honestly, it doesn't really take me out of it all too much. I've seen a lot of anime where it's literally just standing around, talking, nothing else. And look, if it interests me, it interests me. And I think Blue Lock will interest you too, because in the end, the hype and anticipation makes all the talking worth it. Given some of the cringy or weird dialogue at times, or try-hard phrases that are said a lot, will be worth it and put a smile on your face. But that's basically everything I'm going to talk about for Blue Lock. It's honestly really good. It's slowly becoming one of my personal favorites. I do want to end up, once the season ends up officially ending with episode 24, I'm going to pick up the manga and read from that point onwards. I'm reading from what volumes I have right now, and then I'm just going to go and read the rest of the manga from that point onwards, because I like this series a lot. And who knows, maybe I'll even make videos on the manga at some point if you guys really want to, because this is honestly a really good series, and I just would love to talk about it more if need be. But if you haven't already, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, comment down below what was your favorite Blue Lock moment, who's your favorite character, what do you consider the most hype thing about the series, and how would you recommend it to other people. And if there's any other series you'd like me to talk about, leave it in the comment section below, and I'll get around to reading or watching a series, and I'll make a video on it at some point in the future. But with all that said and done, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I hope you have an awesome day.